Call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item of business is approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add or alter on the agenda?
If there's no additions, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. The next item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 7th.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes to the Tuesday, May 7, 2015 meeting as submitted.
I'll support. No.
There's agendas on the table here, folks, if you want to
Oh,
grab one.
Okay.
No.
Where are we? I got distracted.
So did I.
Will somebody make the motion?
I made the motion.
And I supported it, but I wasn't at that meeting.
I'll support the motion.
So we're striking Patty?
Yeah, and put Stover in.
All right, Bill, we didn't put the special meeting on here that we forgot.
No, we approved that last one.
Oh, without Patty, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, moved and supported to approve the minutes of May the 7th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. The next item is financial report. Colleen?
We began the month with $224,323.97. We took in receipts of $76,763.50, and we made disbursements in the amount of $33,380.46, leaving us with $267,707.01 in the general fund.
I make a motion to approve the financial report as received.
I'll support that.
Moved and supported to approve the financial report as received. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Next item under correspondence is the St. Clair County Commissioners letter. As they do every year, they ask us if you're interested in hosting a meeting. I don't believe we have in the past for the county commissioners.
For this road commission.
We are hosting the road commission in July. Tomorrow is the deadline, so these dates may all be taken, but I put it on the agenda in case anybody has a burning desire to do something. Nope.
I have no problem with that.
No, I don't either. I would prefer, I would prefer a September
I
meeting
agree.
rather than an August meeting,
So you want me to contact them tomorrow about September
Yeah.
as a preference?
and find out if we're supposed to, like, we don't have to give snacks or anything, do we? I mean, I want to be prepared.
You don't give
I-
them snacks if you go up to Fort Aaron.
That's what I'm
That's
thinking. I'm just
cookies.
trying to think of
Bottled
what I was.
water may be the
Bottled water.
extent of our largesse.
We'll borrow something. He's trying to.
Okay, we'll do
I
that
haven't got
tomorrow.
any money.
Okay,
All right.
moving on. No old business on a new business. First item is employer support of the Garden Reserve. We were contacted a while back from the ESGR and said they would like to have a signing type ceremony. And a representative is here, Mr. Peplinski, and I'm going to turn it over to him and he can tell us what's up.
All right. My name's Mike Peplinski, and I am with the Employer Support for the Garden Reserve. In a previous life, I was commander of base at Southbridge, so that's where Mr. Stephens and myself know each other.
Yeah.
And anyways, something that we do, we try to make our employers across the state, as well as our public institutions, aware of Employer Supported Guard Reserve. It's an organization that came about in 1972 on the heels of the draft going away. With the draft going away, there was a thought that there was going to be a lot more guardsmen and reservists who needed to have support, especially when it came to working with employers in their service. Well, you'll notice that over the last 20 years, certainly, the last 20 years, the Guard and Reserve have been primarily a strategic reserve. We've been used more as a operational reserve in the last 20 years. And we also recognize the fact that not only does that make it more difficult for the people who serve in uniform and have a day-to-day job in the civilian environment, but also on the employers, because they have to find replacements for those people while they're gone, or they have to find ways to make up for that work. So what I like to say, in Michigan, we have 125 volunteers across the state that help with this. I like to say that this organization, it advocates, it educates, and it mediates. Where we advocate is we advocate on the part of job fairs and working with employers to make sure that they help us find meaningful work for our guardsmen and reservists. We also, when it comes to we really get into the crunch and we have some problems in the workplace, then we work to mediate. We don't particularly represent a guardsman or reservist, and we don't particularly represent the employer. We represent the law, which is the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, which basically says that employers cannot discriminate against their employees who also serve in the military. And as Joe knows, that Chrysler, they have a long-standing tradition of supporting their guardsmen and reservists, and there's a lot of other companies across the nation that have done that. What you have in front of you is what's called a statement of support for the Guard and Reserve. It's nothing that's legally binding. It simply is something that says that you recognize that guardsmen and reservists are essential to the strength of our nation and well-being of our communities. And in the highest tradition, the patriotic men and women of the Guard and Reserve serve voluntarily in an honorable and vital profession. And they train to respond to their community and their country in time of need, and they deserve the support of every segment of our society. If these volunteer forces are to continue to serve our nation, increased public understanding is required of the essential role of the Guard and Reserve in preserving our national security. Therefore, we join other employers in pledging that. We recognize and honor and enforce the Uniformed Service Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. Our managers and supervisors will have the tools they need to effectively manage those employees who serve in the Guard and Reserve. We appreciate the values, leadership, and unique skills service members bring to the workforce, and will encourage opportunities to hire guardsmen, reservists, and veterans. And we will continually recognize and support our country service members and their families in peace and in crisis and times of war. So, what we like to say, our motto in the ESGR is we all serve. We recognize the fact that it's not just people like Joe who serve in uniform and leave the workplace to go protect us in our country, but it's also the employers that have to find somebody to continue the job in his absence. So we all serve. And with that, we also like to educate our employers, in particular military members, to recognize their employers, which Joe, I know, has been a big part of at Chrysler, recognizing Chrysler for what they've done over the years. They won the Freedom Award. What year was that, Joe?
08.
08. That is the top award that a company can get in the nation. And Chrysler won it for a large company that year. And I will tell you that in Michigan we're very fortunate. 175 of those awards have been given since its inception in 1996. There's only one state that has won more awards than Michigan, and that's California. California has awarded that, has won that award. Companies in California has won it 15 times, in Michigan 10 times. And that's pretty impressive considering how big California is, the number of employers, guardsmen and reservists they have there. So we're very fortunate. In front of you is the statement of support. I would hope that you would sign that and hang it in a prominent place to let everyone know who comes through Township of Casco that you do support the guardsmen and reservists. And more importantly, recognize the employers who do treat our guardsmen and reservists and our veterans the way that they do. Continue to support those employers and thank them on behalf of our men and women in uniform.
Yeah, that's very important. When I was first sergeant, one of my squadron mates, she had an employer who was kind of giving her a hard time, and I invited him. I called him up, asked her for contact information. I called him up, invited him up to our military weekend out at the base, gave him a tour of the squadron area. After that, he turned into the biggest supporter. He had really no clue what his member did out on our military weekend, and after that, he was a huge supporter.
That is, that's just a classic way of being able to show a little bit of appreciation to an employer, but to give them an understanding of our service members' contributions. So.
In fact, sir, in 2008, they gave 3 of these free awards, one to a large company, which Chrysler, a small company, which was a small trucking company in Utah. They had 20 employees, like 12 of them were guardsmen,
Mm-hmm.
And then a public service, a public sector, which was the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. So Sheriff Bouchard was there accepting on behalf of the service they did for supporting their guardsmen reserves.
So out of 3 of the top awards that year, Michigan entities won 2 of them.
That's wonderful.
So that's impressive.
Good.
And I can tell you that the nominees this year from Michigan, there were 3 companies. The large company, if I can remember this now. Remember the small company was Davenport University, believe it or not, they're seen as a company, and the public service was Mott Community College. And so, just pretty impressive companies out there.
Guardsmen Reserves, they've been called up to support the operations over in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places, but still, we see it like in Oklahoma right now. Guardsmen, a tornado could hit this area, even though we deal with aircraft out Selfridge, not to say if there's a need for bodies, we can't be called in to serve in their regard.
I guess that question gets asked a lot, and not to take up too much more of your time, but that question gets asked a lot, what's the difference? Why is it always guardsmen that are called up in natural disasters? The best way is because there are different title codes, U.S. code that covers military service. Guardsmen on a day-to-day basis are known as what's Title 32. Their commander-in-chief, day-to-day, is the governor of Michigan.
Oh.
Okay? Whereas active duty is Title 10, and their commander-in-chief on a day-to-day basis is the President of the United States. So that's why you always see guardsmen called up in natural disasters, because the governor has direct access to the guard, because they belong to him or her on a day-to-day basis. So.
Yeah, and something, if you go up to at Lansing at Joint Force Headquarters, it's headquarters of the Michigan National Guard there in Lansing. You walk into the lobby and they have a display case, and they have, I don't know, it was about 19 or 20 of members of the Michigan National Guard who've lost their life in combat operations, either Iraq or Afghanistan. So here are truly citizen soldiers, out defending the country, and some paying the ultimate price there. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for
Thank you for your time and your
signing that.
explanations.
You bet. And are there any other questions?
No.
No.
I guess just a simple one. Since you've done these a million times, does the board or whatever generally have a motion something
I will
like-
tell you that this is the second one that I've done. I'm fairly new to doing this, okay? The very first one that I did was last night in Clinton Township. They did do a motion to sign it, but
Would seem a resolution.
Well, I don't, if you had a motion just saying basically that Casco Township supports the garden reserves and approves signing the statement of support.
So moved.
Support.
There you go.
Okay, moved and supported, I'm not gonna say it again, it sounded
Yeah,
good
you
the
need to say
first
it
time.
again.
Sounded just fine.
I'll give it to you tomorrow. Any discussion on the motion?
I did.
I supported it.
Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, the motion carries. And probably, unless you guys have a better idea, probably we're gonna get a little frame for it and hang it next to the fighter jet back
Okay.
there.
Sounds like a
Sounds
good
good.
plan.
So,
That F-16 was 501, it was named Casco Township. The crew chiefs get to name their jets, and a lot of them were named after community. And that particular, I forget the name of the crew chief at the time, but he named his Casco Township.
Awesome.
Sir, you ever fly 501?
oh yeah, I flew in five.
Okay.
Probably numerous times. I couldn't tell you how many times, but numerous times.
okay, thank you for coming
All
out.
right, again, thank you so much.
All right.
You're welcome.
We'll see.
Good night. Okay, moving on. Item B, resolution 2013-09, ordinance adoption. This is a resolution to adopt Casco Township Ordinance 30-83, 100 sections because it pertains to many, and it pertains to small, medium, and large solar energy systems, structures, and facilities.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2013-09, or adopt,
Wait,
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
To adopt resolution 2013-09.
I'll support that.
Okay, moved and supported to adopt resolution 2013-09, which deals with solar energy systems, structures, and facilities. This was basically brought about by a firm from California expressing interest in establishing a solar farm in Casco. And they were aware we had no ordinance, and I told them we would work on it, and they said that was fine. And I have not heard from those gentlemen in several months, so I don't know if that's still ongoing or not.
You know what I find amazing, the Great Lakes region, Michigan is one of the darkest places on earth. But I guess the technology is improving on these solar
Well,
panels.
Either that or
actually,
they have a very expensive grant, which
it's
doesn't
federal
have to
grant
be
money is
back.
what it is.
There
It's
you
not
go.
it's not the sun.
I know we, at the planning commission, we had the big concern that if one of these are in operation and they go out of business, that the support put in the foundations, that they're removed, because we don't want something that looks like a Stonehenge out there, you know? Some of these structures, I
Yeah.
mean, once they're
Yeah.
planted in the ground, remain for decades.
Ever.
Yeah, Right, forever.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, good.
Any other discussion? In that case, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote. Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
me, yes. Bill,
Aye.
Colleen,
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on, the next item is resolution 2013-10. Last month, the board approved purchasing a small piece of landlocked property that the county has obtained through tax forfeiture. And the county says we need a resolution to confirm that intent. Basically, that's the law, I guess. So that's why it's on the agenda. And the purpose of this purchase, and it is in the amount of $761.13. And the purpose is to hopefully distribute it in a fair and equitable manner to the neighbors so that it's no longer a landlocked parcel that no one can get to. So that's why the resolution is on the agenda.
I move to let the township purchase this property for the purpose of,
You want to adopt the resolution?
adopting the resolution.
I'll support.
Okay, moved and supported to adopt resolution 2013-10, purchase of property. Any discussion? Hearing none, we have a roll call vote, please.
okay. Colleen,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
Pat, yes. Joe,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, item D, insurance, Nickel and Sapp, renewal of property and liability insurance. I did put some folders there wasn't enough for everybody, so somebody might have to share. I just wanted to bring one thing to your attention, if I could.
I don't have one.
Well, there was one, there's 4 of them somewhere, that's right there, in front of Joe.
Oh, sorry.
If you go inside, let's see what page it is.
Oh,
Anyway, there's one page on terrorism insurance.
oh, I did see that
Okay.
in
Third
here.
page in,
Third in?
Third one,
I must have missed it.
Terrorism Risk Insurance Act.
Now that, we've had it the last 2 years, it's in again. It cost us, I think it's $165 a year. Basically, the insurance agent says everybody that he covers takes it because it's so cheap. But if you really read what's required to initiate it, probably the only time it would be applicable is if there was like a nuclear attack and radiation got to the hull. Because the only thing it's going to cover is this hull, because that's all we have that has any value. But in order to get that insurance to pay off, the police have to say it's a terrorist act. The governor has to say it's a terrorist act. Then the Secretary of the Treasury, in concurrence with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General of the United States, have to determine it was a overt terrorist act for this insurance to kick in.
So that time, 20-some odd years ago, when someone put a car through the front door, that wouldn't have been a...
No.
no.
So I just bring that to your attention.
Well, then we don't need it, right?
Well, I'm dubious about it.
I'm very dubious.
I did ask the gentleman if you didn't have it, and somebody put a bomb at the hall because they were mad at me.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a terrorist act, that's
That's
just
vandalism.
violence.
All right.
I said, you know, he said, well, the insurance company will probably give you some grief, but I said, the Secretary of State in the United States isn't gonna declare it a terrorist act because some nutbag put a bomb by our door.
Right.
So, if you wanna save $165, you can make that part of your motion. Otherwise, the amounts are in front of you for this year, including that terrorist insurance, is $7,393, which is approximately 1% raise from last year. So last year was 7,306, I believe. So, choice is yours. If you have a feeling either way.
I'm dubious that we need it.
All right, me too.
Same here, like...
I don't know.
Although it does have $1 billion cap.
Well,
Yeah.
just see what kind of haul we can get for $1 billion.
So,
This is nonsense.
Does it cover, suppose, I don't know, I just can't see it.
well,
happening,
if we had a water supply, I would leap on it. Because if somebody polluted the water supply,
Right.
you know, if you had city water, I'd say yeah, because that would be ultimately millions of dollars, could be a terrorist act.
Right.
We don't have a water supply, we don't have a sewer supply, we don't own the streets. The only thing we own is the hall we're sitting in. So it has to be an attack on the hall. And, I don't know.
And
I
our
mean, it's
various
minute change.
Just the hall, not our other properties?
Well, I mean, what could you do
They're
to them?
vacant property.
Other than pollute them with something
The
maybe?
cemetery and...
Yeah,
I mean,
that was.
I don't know. So I asked him, I said, in the last 12 years since 9/11,
Yeah.
how many of these have ever been done in Michigan? He said none.
Oh.
That have been gone all the way to
Have you
Washington
ever
and been
heard of
declared
a
a terrorist act. But he said it could always happen, but his theory is it's so ridiculously cheap was the word he used. Well, so it's up to you.
$165, that's $165.
So-
How many of these policies has he sold?
Yeah.
Well, he covers a lot of townships and
Yes.
cities,
So it might be cheap
but,
for
but I,
one, but in aggregate, they're making a fortune.
well, but I don't know how many he covers that are as rural as us, where they don't have any
Yeah.
Water.
Or if they have
facilities,
water and,
you know,
big
something that could
water
possibly be classified as terrorist. So, it's up to you. I can live with it either way.
I make a motion that we accept the price less than $165.
Yeah, I support that.
Okay, moved in support.
Yes.
renewal of property and liability insurance for, and I didn't subtract it, but it's $7,393 minus $165 for the terrorist coverage. Is there any discussion? You think we need a roll call on this?
Probably.
Okay,
Here we go. Oh, wait. Who supported it? Nobody did.
somebody did, didn't they?
Yeah,
No.
I did.
Did you? I
I
didn't
heard
hear it.
support.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Joe. Okay, roll call vote. Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
me, yes. Bill,
Aye.
and Colleen.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. The next item on the agenda is the Ira Township Fire Contract. I'm gonna pass you out another copy of it. There's a very, do you get one or two? Maybe there's two more. On the first page, the only change is, I believe in the first paragraph, 2 lines up, it said, yours said Township of Ira, and we added Township of Ira Fire Department. And on the third page, number 5 in the old one was false alarms are counted as a half run, and Ira requested that be removed. And I said I didn't have a problem with it because we're not, if you read it over, we're not paying them by the run.
Oh,
And if we ever get back to a point where we do, then I would want it back in.
okay.
Be aware from reading it, I hope y'all read it over, that if this is approved by both townships, that Richmond Lennox EMS will become the first responder in all of Casco Township, not just the Richmond Fire Department area.
What? Really?
Yeah. See, go on vacation, look at all that fun you missed.
I asked you if anything happened while I was
Well,
gone.
anyway, Lennox, or Ira had their meeting last night, and it was on the agenda as an informational item, and there was no problems. And so I talked to Supervisor McCoy today, and he's flipping a coin whether to run it by their attorney. But their meeting is the 1st of July, and it's gonna be on for approval. So I asked him if it was beneficial if we approve it now or the 2nd of July, which is the next meeting. He said he'd like us to approve it. If the lawyer makes a change, we'll have to bring it back.
Okay.
So as soon as they approve it on the 1st of July, it will take effect. I'll immediately contact Central Dispatch and put that into effect like we did in April with Richmond. And I dropped the money amount accordingly. Now, if you read the update, I screwed up. I gave you a figure of 25,000. That was a 6-month bill.
Oh, it's going.
So it's actually, last year we paid $50,540. And this year we'll pay $40,000. And next year, $41,000.
Well, why is the $1,000 increase?
Well, because it's an uncertain area on how many medical runs they're gonna run on for free. And it's a 2.5% increase, which is probably pretty close to the cost of living. So I didn't wanna really put them out, because once we get 2 years under the belt, we'll have a real good handle on the number of runs. And then we can see if there's a snag, you know, but, so that's what I negotiated with Mr. McCoy. And,
I have a question. They cover basically the lower third of the township and a partial section of section 24.
the south half.
How did that come to be? Why is that a little?
I hear a lot of stories, but I think theoretically at one point, there must have been some Ira firefighters in Perch Point, and they wanted Perch Point in their turf. That's the story I get. Now, whether that's factual, I have no idea. So they split that section in half.
Okay.
So my recommendation is, I think this is a good way to go. I don't think there's any negative aspects for the citizens of Casco. Health-wise, currently, Richmond Lennox EMS gets there first, even though they're not first responder. Somewhere between 75 and 80% of the time anyway. So I think that's the way to go until, you know, maybe somewhere down the road, something will change.
Because they have their EMS service.
Hang on a second. Go ahead. Oh,
Okay.
Joe, yes.
Yeah.
How do you support that contract? Is that a millage or straight out of your general
Us,
fund?
general
Out of
fund.
our General fund.
Okay,
Flat general fund. We don't have a fire millage, we have a road millage
okay.
instead.
That's
And that's a third of our township. We pay, it's not signed yet, but we're paying about 43,000 to Richmond also. So that's 83,000 a year for fire cover.
It's interesting how all the different communities do that differently.
Well, we're in a contract with 3 townships in the city of Richmond there. And everyone's come to agreement on the terms, we just haven't gotten the document to approve. So, but both fire departments do an excellent job, and we don't want to lose either one. And so I think this is a reasonable deal for 2 years.
They have their, our township has their own EMS service now.
What do you mean, ambulance?
Yeah.
No, it's
No.
not theirs. I think it's Tri-County that's theirs.
Right.
Oh, Tri-County.
And they keep an ambulance there.
Oh,
They
really?
got rid of it.
Well, MedStar EMS used to do ours.
Well, maybe it's MedStar. But I was there one day, and they got a call, and the pole barn opened, and the ambulance pulled out. And they
Okay.
said, yeah, they usually have an ambulance station here.
I guess I know like the city of Marysville, they have their own EMS service for the city.
To say, yeah.
Right. I was just a bit surprised that, at first, I don't know, maybe I was mistaken. I thought I would tell.
No, I think a long while ago, they went for that, but they lost so much money that they had to do away with
I
it.
know the city of Port Huron, they have Tri-Hospital
Right.
do that. I think Marysville is the only one that does their own EMS.
Could be.
I don't
Yeah.
know. So we'll see how it works out. I mean, there is a clause, if you notice, that either side can pull out with 60-day notice. And both sides are well aware of that. If for some reason it doesn't work out, we'll renegotiate it. But I think it's gonna work out well.
Okay.
Work.
I'll make a, yeah, that was good work there. I'll make a motion to adopt the Casco Era Township Fire Service Agreement.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the contract with the Ira Township Fire Department. Is there any discussion? And like I mentioned, if their attorney makes any changes at all, we'll have to hit it the 2nd of July. Sure.
Okay.
And so we'll see what happens. Oh, might as well hit another roll call.
I knew it. Colleen,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
Pat, yes, Joe,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. The next item is approval of the Park and Rec's millage distribution of $17,264.40. We do this every year. It takes board action to make the application for our share of the county Park and Rec's millage. Even though we're approving it tonight, our treasurer says that she's gonna wait in a couple weeks, or whatever, we'll have the audit done, and then she'll know our interest numbers are accurate and everything, and we'll send it along to the county.
I'll make a motion to approve the Parks and Rec millage distribution.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the Park and Rec's millage distribution. Any questions?
Yeah, I think it's really, I got the flyer in the mail of the county parks. They, what, they do that every 6 months
They
or
do a
that?
great job.
Yeah, they
Yes.
do.
And it seems so with the parks as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Do a
St.
lot.
Clair County has just a beautiful network of parks.
And it's growing.
Yeah, and they got that, the lighthouse is like,
Yeah.
kind of like the crowning jewel.
I don't know, I think the whole state really does a very good job, Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
I was up in the western part of the state, just absolutely beautiful,
Yeah.
well kept, and, yeah.
And they talk about, a minute about attracting business, you know, nice park system is a big factor in that. People
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, I think the
I
people
like-
are working very hard on this.
The newest part was that they got was that Girl Scout camp, what they call Wind Song.
Wind Song,
Yeah,
mhm.
that's kind of a neat name, isn't it?
Mhm.
So, okay, that's it there.
Okay, do we vote on this?
No.
Not yet?
No.
I don't think we need a roll call vote on this.
No, we don't.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
We're getting money instead of spending money.
All right.
Well, the next item on the agenda is someone wants to give us Norman Rockwell posters of the 4 freedoms. And we got them right here. And it sounded like a reasonable idea, but I didn't want to get carried away till everybody agrees. Now, my intent would be, if you want to do it, we just get some poster boards similar to what's holding that little cemetery mat behind you,
Okay?
and put them up over that opening up on top. I think they'll fit great up there.
Yep, I think that would look great.
And I don't know if you wanna see them all or what. Here's,
I wanna get a better
This is my
frame than
favorite.
that for them.
That's my favorite.
Oh, that was nice.
Isn't that nice?
The only thing I would say, Bill, I want better than poster.
well, we'll get it to fit properly,
Well,
and,
they're
we'll
not
see.
that expensive.
We'll get something, well, it'll be plexiglass covered, keep the dust and bugs
Yeah,
out.
that's, you know, if it's something that's, I mean,
They
I'll
are-
kick in fun stuff.
Okay, so does anybody have a problem
We
with
can
that?
afford it.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, if not, I'll.
And right now, like I say, above that opening, I think
Yes.
we'll hold them all good,
Yes,
and,
we can
we'll
afford
go
to
from
buy
there.
them.
What was that other document with that?
That explains.
it explains the 4 freedoms.
Oh, okay.
Well,
This should have its own frame
Frame
too,
too,
in the middle,
yes.
with 2 on
Right.
each side.
Well, we might have room over here where we put the ESGR thing. It's
No.
freedom of speech, whatever, freedom of worship, if you put it up that high, you're not gonna be able to read it. Freedom from want and freedom from fear.
Right, if we have it, yeah, too high, someone's gonna, during vote, you know, they'll be here standing in line, accent.
It's gotta be low enough to read, but not low enough to lenience.
There you
Okay,
go. Okay,
We don't want to have our insurance company get involved.
okay.
so no one has a problem?
No.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Consensus of the board?
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Next item is payment of the bills.
Any question on the bills?
I make a motion that we pay the bills.
Support.
Moved and supported, to pay the bills. Any discussion? A roll call vote.
Who you start?
Who did start with? Last time was Colleen, would be Dan. Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Pat, Bill,
Aye,
and Colleen.
Yes.
motion carries. Okay, the next item is citizens' comments. This is your opportunity to address the board with comments or questions. We would ask that you'd state your name, but it's not mandatory.
These folks are here about something.
They're
No, they're
always
here every
here.
year.
They're always here.
Every day.
There's no priority in life.
Yeah.
He needs to come up here.
No, we
Quick, you
love
want to be
you.
on camera, go on that side, she can pick you up better.
That's okay.
You want to be on channel 6?
No.
We can see you over there.
Yeah.
She'll get you there too.
Camera rotates,
Yeah, we're
so.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Skip Steffens. I'm at 7945 St. Clair Highway. My wife is Marion Buffet. We have three things that have occurred over the last couple of months that are beginning to annoy us as a resident and taxpaying of this township, and it just irks them.
But there are also concerns for the welfare
Yeah.
of children and people in the neighborhood.
I know the Suckerfest is a big deal in this area, but there are certain elements in that Suckerfest. We had an incursion on our property. I'm gonna say blatant. He was not an upstanding citizen of the township. He was drunk, and he was on his 4-wheel drive thing. I don't know if anybody you saw it or heard about it, but he came rampaging through our property. He went around the back of the house when he found out he couldn't get past our cars, and then he ran next door to Debbie's house and tore around her house until we could finally get a way out. And the reason he was going through our property was they wouldn't allow electric cars on the street.
Gas cars. It's a golf cart,
It's a golf cart or something.
500 with a lift bed on the back.
Yeah.
And when he first came through, we were mowing, and he went around the back of the house, and we have our house sits back about 200 feet, so it's the first 2 acres of the 4-acre plot as lawn. House sits kind of at the middle of the property. So he whipped around the back of the house, came out on over the septic field. and I was
Right across
mowing,
our septic field.
came near missing me while I was I walked
Well, he
behind.
did miss you,
But near. missing
near
me.
hitting her would have been better
So,
description.
but I was walking behind my mower. And he came up over and he had to swerve to get around me, and then ran down and over. We have a raised septic field, so it's something that you don't put heavyweight items on. It's not good for it.
Yeah, to have at least 500 pounds by the time you do the cart, and the 2 people that were on that cart, they were both inebriated. I mean, they were raising their beers to us and laughing and carrying on, and they just
And
ran
if
off.
that- But if that wasn't enough, then he went after he got past Debbie's house and she had the yellow tape up.
Keep
We do
people
have our
running
yard
hard.
fenced,
Yep.
and it is for private property. So then, as he crossed through there, then he came back down the right-of-way on the road, cut through the driveway.
Came right up our driveway.
Had about 6 to 8 kids on the back. Again, I didn't see him till the arm came out and grabbed me off the back, and the kids were drinking.
They were drinking, they were raising their
And,
beers, and hooping up and
all
screaming
kinds
and
of
carrying
stuff.
on.
And so then he continued back around the house.
Across our septic field.
Back
This
up.
time you're talking about 800 pounds. I would say that cart is at least 200 or 250 pounds. The guy, according to the police report, is 240, but he had 7 other people on that cart. Now that adds up to over 150 pounds apiece. We're talking about a lot of pressure on our septic field, but he thought it was great sport.
So
And went running around our property, and then I met him on the other side, and he nearly ran me over. I threw a log at him, missed him, of course. But I mean, I tried to get him to stop. He wouldn't stop. He thought it was great sport. And so
and
they
then,
ran off down through the other property and then up into Adair. Just think it was great fun. And so
our
our,
time came back through.
oh yeah, third time he came back,
We parked the car in the driveway.
we had the car
Block
parked.
the other edge that's slightly open so our neighbor can mow down and where he wants to run. Now it'll get closed off. We had trouble with snowmobilers over
The
the
same
past
way.
10 years. And taking out the wellhead and a few other things, so you see a nice wood.
So he
fence
was
to put up.
harassing you by keep
Yeah,
coming?
kept
Yeah.
coming back. And the last time he said, see, you can't get us now, and he raised his fist and did all that stuff. And it's just because he's in our neighbor's yard and his driveway that goes back into that little, I don't know if you're familiar with that corner of the property, but you know, they got that old barn back there. And
Yes.
he came up that road and along that way. And so we're in a quandary. It took me a month to get a report on that incident from the police department, from the sheriff's department.
Well, why so long?
Don't know.
Exactly my question, and I finally went to them yesterday and said, look, this can't be that hard. And they said, well, we're short-staffed, we don't have enough people in our
That's not
group.
excuse.
Anyway, that they gave, I think that they were doing that because I was not a happy camper when the guys came through. I told the police officers, I want to see that man, I want to see him on my property, and we're going to have a talk about why he has to come through our place.
Right.
Because we're trying to keep up the yard, trying to be decent about the place. I think we made some improvements on our house, you know, so our property
Still in
values is
process.
still going. You know, to having just, to recklessly and with all kinds of abandonness, think it's his place to
They
run.
go like this at you,
And do
it's
that
not good.
too. I called the police twice, and they came back out twice, and they were on the police, scanner, I don't know about that, but they were on their bicycles.
Oh.
I mean, they could have.
His whole
you know,
point was, you know, he is just drunk. I said,
He's driving.
He's driving. He's
Exactly
also
the point I made to the
engaging-
police officer. Oh, and the next thing, it just floored me, was he said he was a local guy.
Who cares?
I said, I'm local, I live within a block of the Adair, and how come I'm not local? I said, he's not a neighbor of mine, I don't know any of my neighbors that would run rampant across my property and then, you know, thumb their nose at me
Right.
like, oh, so too bad for you.
But as they have the Suckerfest, you've got people that park across your driveway, throw the trash in the ditch, you're
Yeah.
picking up glass for the next week, you cannot mow till you clean the ditch first.
They did better this year.
They
They
cleaned
had
the
some
other
people come
side
out,
of
and
the road,
I have to
right.
compliment them on that part. And the people who walked up and down in front of our property, everybody was very cordial to us. We
Right.
were out in the yard working and so on, they'd wave and, you know, tell us how good it's looking, that kind of thing. We appreciated that. But there are a few of the rowdies, and this guy was, I do have his name, I wasn't supposed to have his name, but
He
there
did
was a
blacking
little-
out one spot.
yeah, they made a mistake here, but
Oh,
that's
Oh,
okay.
ticket.
I don't think we need to reveal that to
No,
anybody.
no,
No, I wouldn't go
no.
there.
But the whole point is,
But we are having to press charges to have that taken care of.
yeah. Now, we
So
like
we
to
will have
know,
to go to court with some expense to do that.
we
So we
want,
want to know what kind of,
what does Casco, what are their plans about containing this revelry that goes on? I don't mind people having fun. They'll run the band until 5 o'clock and then they'll shut down. That went pretty well this year. I mean, I have to compliment them. They did better this year than the other years where they were, I mean,
Really?
trashed us. I mean, they trashed us a couple of times. But to have a man completely disregard our privacy and think that it's okay to run his heavy-duty vehicle around my property. I'd like to know, what can we do to contain that little revelry in Adair so that it doesn't come on personal property?
Well, you remember a few years ago that they had a lot of problems, and then
I do.
then they brought more police in.
They had
And then
6 officers there on Saturday.
You know, and I don't know if you can expect many more than that
Yeah,
for the size of
of
Adair.
course.
That size of the party is a lot bigger than Adair.
Well, I know that,
There were
but
thousands of people there.
you know, that's 6 police for Adair, and you could have, you know, for boat night
But
in
if I
Port
were-
York, they probably don't have 20, you know?
Okay, but if I were to have that kind of property, party on my property, and my guests offended or crossed over and got drunk on my neighbor's property, I would be held a lot more liable for the 100 people I had there than for the, I don't know how many thousands of people are
Thousands.
there now, and lose control. Literally, sometimes you
I would-
cannot drive down Palms, you cannot drive
Right.
down St. Clair Highway. We have had 4-wheelers that have flipped
Oh,
out
yeah.
there on the road, and people are hurt.
And this is what we couldn't understand. I mean, if our granddaughter and her cousins had been out in the backyard,
and he wouldn't
he'd
have
have
seen
gone
them.
right through them. You know, that's
So when
amazing to us.
they have the Suckerfest meetings, do you ever attend any of those before?
Not this year, but I
And
tell you what.
because we are not Adair, we are Casco Township.
So is
understand.
Adair, Casco.
So is Adair, it's not a
I know, but
village.
I mean, it's not something that I've never needed to go to a
I
Suckerfest
gotcha.
meeting before.
Before.
Nor do I have an interest to,
So-
because I am not involved in the
Well,
Suckerfest.
They haven't invited us, and we live right there. Huh?
Well,
I don't need to
all
all you have to
be
do is
there.
walk either to the bar or the,
I don't go to the bar.
well, go to the salvage yard and ask John, and
I don't
see
go
when
to
the meeting
salvage
is.
yard either, sorry.
Well,
I mean, I have
you've
no
gotta
need to
be
go there.
reasonable. If you want it to help us get it,
Oh, yeah.
they've gotta hear your concern.
And they
You've gotta
used
talk to
to,
them.
they used to have
Okay.
the
I'll
police
talk to Ackett's,
would
'cause I
come
support
out
them.
to their
Okay.
meeting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did the
Okay.
one year when I went.
Okay.
And that's what I would ask, are you gonna have anybody from the sheriff's department here at one of your meetings before the event? And then go to that one and talk to the sheriff, see what he says. You know, the one year they talked about possibly having some off-duty officers on ATVs.
Yeah.
I don't go over there to the event, I've been there once, I guess, in all the years they've had it. So I don't know what they have, I know they had the,
I just hear it.
they had
I
the
know it
command
goes on.
center
Yeah,
there
you
a
can't
couple
get
of years.
away. I mean, you're right there.
Well, this is
So-
the first time we've had this kind of difficulty, so
Yeah.
we need some advice here because it's getting annoying. I came pretty close to just decking that one fellow.
Well,
I mean, you helped us
I know.
when we had the neighbor
Critters.
who had the critters, who would come after me while I was mowing. The
Yeah.
ram that chased me around the yard,
Let me
and flooded
ask
the
you
car,
this.
and I had to
Um,
deal with that.
It sounds like the police department did not do their job,
They didn't.
number one.
I was gonna
And
follow-
that's the problem.
I'll follow that up with one more comment about this piece of paper.
Okay.
Not one word about this inebriated jerk was mentioned in here. There's not one word. You can read that if you like. Not one word that they mentioned that he had in his hand beer.
a ticket?
No ticket. Didn't arrest him. Didn't confiscate his vehicle. They just,
Provided a
Okay.
safe
Were the
haven
people
for
all
the-
of age that were with him?
I have no
not the ones
idea.
we saw.
We didn't get a chance to stop him and ask him. You know.
Yeah,
Okay.
really.
The whole point was, the people on board were all younger people. Had to be at least somewhere in 20 or younger. But there were 7 of them on this car. I mean, if he'd have flipped that on our backyard or
They
something
were
like that,
young
somebody
kids.
got hurt.
High school kids.
I mean, it was a dangerous operation. But to have him race, then, after he did the thumb in your nose at me, he went right down the middle of the street where he was told not to drive. But the
Using
police
the
officer,
right.
the police officer, the deputy that came back and reported to us what he finally apprehended him. We described the man with his flag shirt, his American flag shirt and his straw hat and all that. We told him exactly what he looked like. And they went down there and finally found him, and they said, they told him to first of all dump out his beer. But that report right there does not mention one item about the inebriation of these people. And he said, he came back and told me, I asked him what he did about it. He says, you got him? I says, yeah. And I says, well, what'd you do about it? He says, well, first of all, we made him dump out his beer. I thought, and how many cans of beer was that? I said, well, at least 8 cans of beer. Well, that's real helpful. You can just walk around there and get some more. Anyway, and I said, well, did you arrest him for his driving while under the influence? No, didn't do it. And I says, well, what did you do about his vehicle? Well, my sergeant's taking care of that. It says, did he impound the thing? No, he didn't. And so I'm going, so what did you really do here? He said, well, we told him not to come back on your property. I thought, well, let's see, should I go ahead and get my bat now and defend my own property or what? I mean, there's a place in our property, we've got it nearly all fenced in, except for that place on the very far back where we were working. And so he thought, well, that's a perfect place, so just scoot down that way and around the back of our house. But the fact that he came back 2 other times after that was just beyond me. In fact, that the police did nothing. They didn't even report that the man was drunk. So, well, we don't have a breathalyzer with us. I said,
Oh,
"You
come
don't-
on,
you
they
don't
have-
need a breathalyzer."
Yeah.
But I don't know if you know somebody and he's friends with those cops or what, excuse me, the deputies or what. But it was just an absurd situation. You know, okay, we're just having a little fun here. I said, at our expense,
No,
you're gonna ruin
that's
our
not
property.
fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that little vehicle went down through where our property drains off, and that's where the soggy part is. And we're trying to fill that in, and there are 2 big ruts just running right now down through the middle of it. I thought, here we go again. We don't have to do nothing. So if we seem a little bit agitated,
I'd be agitated.
we're
I
beyond,
totally
and the
understand.
fact that they kept putting me off, I called them every Friday and said, how's the report coming? Well, it's not done yet. I says, well, I tell you what, I'm going to the Casco Township meeting on Tuesday night, and I'd like to have it in my hand. Well, we can't get it done by then, and this is last Friday. And I said, well, I tell you what, let me talk to somebody. Finally, this lieutenant came on, and I said, look, this has gone on long enough.
A month to
A
do
month.
1 report?
And look at, you see it's so sparsely written, I mean.
I could
you
have done
do it
that in my sleep.
in 15 minutes at most. Anyway, the
And-
whole point was, we didn't get the support we would like to have seen from the sheriff's department. So you're suggesting we need to go and talk to the,
Do you know any of the
Yes.
folks that are on the Suckerfest committee?
not
Kind of
one
Acker's,
person.
That's the only ones that we do business.
Oh, yeah, well, that's right, she knows who's that.
Well, I can talk to a couple of them and see what they say. I mean, you got 11 months till the next one, but I'll ask them. I'll ask them when they have their meetings, because they usually start like in January and then
Okay.
to prepare.
We'll
If-
get our
Send a-
barricades up
Maybe we
and
should send a
we'll,
representative from the township.
And see if the sheriff still comes to those
You know,
meetings.
Maybe we need to talk to the sheriff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you had the sheriff's
Let
department
me ask,
two
you know,
years ago.
I
This
mean,
can't
that's
be.
ridiculous.
And you
Anybody
can't
else?
have
And-
people sitting on the back of,
Right.
we have your name and
Floats.
address.
With-
I'll get
And our
back to
neighbor
you.
next
Beer.
to us is by herself.
yeah,
She said she was scared to come out of the house because first of all, the guy circling her house,
yeah.
kind of looked like what you'd see in the old westerns when you got the wagon. and
The wagon.
This guy just keeps going
there's
around.
a Keystone Cops film, I mean, we wish I had a
It wasn't a
camera.
Keystone.
But it's just ridiculous. I mean, had the man tipped that
wasn't-
thing over on his
yeah.
second run through with 8 people on board, someone would have got hurt.
Yeah.
The
So-
thing is,
Plus the liability there on your property.
they could have just taken him away. If they didn't want to arrest him, then have somebody come and get him.
Yeah,
They didn't.
well, yeah,
That one
people, they get drunk and they get stupid.
And this is, you know,
Well,
this sort
no
of thing is
excuse.
going to
There's
cause
no
them to have to
excuse
cancel the
for the
event
police not
sometime.
protecting them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I asked him, he says, what is this on the side of your police vehicle here? It says protect and serve. Who are you protecting? And apparently it was him. I thought, well, hell,
yeah, yeah,
It's fine.
yeah, but you know,
Right,
sooner
protecting
or
who?
later, the complaints are going to outweigh the merit of collecting for the Salvation Army.
I'm just saying,
That's
let me
a-
just donate to the Salvation Army,
Yeah.
to keep them out of the yard.
Well, that's where they were
Keep
3
them
years
all
ago.
in
They
Yeah.
did really spruce
Yeah,
up
we
their
did.
act
Right.
as far as trouble, because they get, like you said, 6 officers there. But let me get a hold of a couple of people in the committee. I'll get back to you. And first I'll find out if they have, when they have their meetings in the winter and spring, if the police still come. Then I'll say, well, what do they think about the situation? And maybe they have a better idea, maybe they're smarter than me.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you if I have to introduce you, or,
normally we're pretty friendly folks.
well, I know.
Glad to hear
And
that.
our second issue we have, and I don't know how to do this, but, you know, when you go to Adair from the west towards the east, it goes to 35 miles an hour. And we have kids, and I like to go across the street, and that's where my mailbox is, and I can't get it on my side of the street according to the US Postal Service. But I don't dare cross the street because it goes from 35 to 60 in
Or
front of
more.
the house, or more. Just flying on by. And so someone has now posted 45 on there. For a long time, it wasn't posted. So how do I get it down to 35? Because now we are residential. We have more houses there probably than when they posted it at 55 or 60 and downed it to 45. But to go, you just crossing the street from 35 and all of a sudden we're going, so and we just take off. So if I want to go over and trim around my,
Oh, yeah,
mailbox,
mailbox.
I park the car on the opposite side of the street with the flashers going, and I work behind it. So at least I can hear them crash while I jump in the ditch. Anyway. But it really is a dangerous situation. That's my second one.
And I have no idea what you do about that because we don't set the speed limit. That's
Yeah.
set by the county and the,
But who do I even
and
contact? I
if
have
they
talked
set it
Secretary
to
of State, they
25,
don't
it's not gonna slow people down
Well,
because,
it would be a little bit maybe slower than 70.
Well,
I mean, they'd go 25 and
It
at
won't
least
hurt
there
near
would
so
be.
much at 20.
Yeah,
you know.
but it would.
When I talked to the sheriff about it, they say, well, if it was posted lower, then we can give them a ticket.
yeah, but if they're going 70, they're already
They're already
doubling the
going-
posted
so I
speed.
mean, so they have more of a grounds. for-
But when they scrape the gravel roads, they go 70 down the gravel roads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
amazing.
and, you know, and you're not gonna see the
So
sheriff there
everybody-
much.
So everybody has this common problem of heavy-footed something.
Well, you know,
whatever.
where else it's a problem, I mean,
And in 8 years, they do 35.
when you're going down Palms Road by St. Paul's, St.
Right.
Paul's, St. Peter's.
No, St. Paul's.
St.
It-
Paul's.
It is Peters, is the town, or
Exactly.
was.
And I've always thought this is going to be a tragedy. You have a limousine, whether it's a wedding or a funeral, and you have people around that limousine coming in and out of service,
Sure.
and those cars come up over the hill, and it says 45 in there. It's too late, you know, they're already past that church at 70, you know.
Yeah, they almost had a photographer,
Yes.
wedding party on the front of the church.
Yeah.
He was out in the middle of Holmes Road.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know why it hasn't been a tragedy
Oh,
there
this
yet,
is several
you
years
know.
ago.
Oh, it's not addressed.
Yeah.
And our third and final concern, and I know I talked to the supervisor about this briefly on the phone. We have apparently a neighbor on Palms that's across the back of the property who has excavated a pile of dirt. And on various Saturdays and Sundays, he will have a practice of high assault weapons going on and high-powered ones. And so we did one day, as it went on for 4 and 5 hours, called the sheriff, and she went over and checked it out. She came back and reported to us how beautifully organized it was and safe it was. And that they had all the kids there with goggles on. They had their tables, they had their no beer when she got all the way out there. So it was beautifully organized and safe. And I said, so you've got younger than 16-year-olds there. You've got high-powered rifles going on for 5 hours. You have a thing of dirt that you're shooting into. Now, I've lost relatives to gun from hunting accidents, where it gets exciting, they lose control of the gun, and it goes off sideways, and somebody gets it. Well, you got a high-powered rifle that goes more than
500
500 feet or more. It's high-powered, it's rapid fire, and we sit within
482 feet from
from the
that.
back of the
gun range.
house, through the woods granted. If the trees will stop those, I don't know. So I don't know. And his mound of dirt runs east to west. We have our neighbor that's down on the other side of the mound, came up, and he's also concerned about it as well. Lives in the little log cabin, and he's finishing up the siding there on St. Clair Highway. And our neighbor who's right next to us, Debbie, is also
Oh,
concerned.
the log cabin.
So, I don't know, I know that gun laws are big in the United States and having trouble with them. But if we had some kind of ordinance that dealt with it, and I don't understand why that can be on private property that is a residential area, when we do have within the township an indoor and/or controlled
Shooting
right,
range.
shooting
Shooting range.
range to do that.
Well, the sheriff came out, apparently it was legal by the standards
She
of the
wasn't
state
sure.
law.
She didn't know that it was or not. She had to go research the laws.
Did she get back to you and tell you?
She got back to us and she couldn't find the laws to say yes or no.
He's got
It was
it.
kind of questionable, but it was organized It didn't appear to be dangerous and no one appeared to be drinking. It appeared safe and organized.
I don't know,
But you had to walk how many feet? I said, so you walked from Palms to back where he is. That's a good 400 feet from Palms to there. You had to walk around the pond. And so they know you're coming.
but we're concerned, because
I'm
there
concerned.
are more and more people in our area, so
With
why is
guns.
it open on the sides where the rounds? There's not a person in this room, I went to Vietnam, I know what kind of carnage can happen with a high-powered rifle. And I suspect every one of you have been hunting once or twice. You gonna tell me that that's okay to shoot sideways off that place? There's something the matter with that kind of thinking.
Assault weapons, I don't
We
know why
listened
you
for
do
one
that.
Sunday afternoon, 5 hours to this. How many times does he have to shoot a gun and say, I know how to shoot this gun? I mean, you don't have to be
If
an
I go out
idiot.
mowing and I hear it, I go in,
Yeah,
because I don't know where it's going.
we don't know where it's coming from a lot of times. We're guessing it's up the street. But what is it? What is it? The law says, yes, everybody has the right to bear arms. Someone forgot to read the rest of the Constitution, because it also says, how do you preserve the domestic tranquility? We didn't have any tranquility that Sunday. We were afraid to even open our door.
That's
That's
it on that side of the house.
I'm gonna say-
Yeah.
You can see I'm a little vocal sometimes.
That's all right.
I'd be,
Well, I've been to war, and I know what the frapping thing can happen. You can't tell me that that isn't a dangerous thing, but he's gotta have his right to shoot that gun. No, he doesn't. He has a right to bear that arm. That doesn't mean he's got the right to shoot it. Where does it say that in the Constitution? Does he get to shoot it? Your
Well,
constitutional.
the police should be able to figure out what the law says and tell you that, yes, it's
He
legal,
said
no,
if
it's
they
not.
told us if we had ordinances within the township, then they could enforce them. We don't have any ordinances, so they can't enforce them.
They're lying to you, because they will not enforce our ordinances.
Well, some will, some won't. We have other
Wow.
instances where the sheriff goes out and we have ordinances and they say, well, we don't enforce township ordinances, we just enforce state laws.
state law.
So if they don't
What's
wanna
the
do
state
it,
law?
they don't do it.
See?
What
So,
is it?
Now we know.
but
What do we do?
Yeah.
But without it, without an ordinance, for sure we're not protected.
But the only enforcement agency is the sheriff's department.
Right.
Well, I
If
guess
we
you
call
could see,
them
is
enough
it common,
times,
is
we have an
that?
ordinance on the books, and we call them enough times, they're gonna have to address it.
Yeah, Donlin is the sheriff.
Right.
So do I write a personal letter to him then and say, you know, we're up to here with this, you selectively deal with different people, let's have some support here.
'Cause I can
And his,
select
I know what his
people
comment's
that
gonna be
don't
into what we've heard this whole month is, well, we're understaffed now. Okay?
We understand.
But that doesn't mean you can't do your job.
Okay, I have a question. Does the board know, of course, the Board of Commissioners, the St. Clair County, they have their thing. You could go out and the citizens voice comments. Does the sheriff's department have an open forum like that, the sheriff being an elected official, can the public come up? And,
I've never
Well, they don't have meetings like the
heard
Board
of
of
that. They
Commissioners
don't
do.
have a- yeah.
right.
But does the Board of Commissioners have a police commissioner? Almost every
I don't know
police
if the
department
county
has
does,
a
Fort
police
York does.
commissioner.
I don't know if they have a,
The sheriff's elected, isn't he?
Right.
Yes, yes.
But the county,
That's
though,
another avenue. but-
yeah, but the county appropriates the funds for the sheriff's department.
Right, okay.
I mean, you could, I don't know, talk to,
Does the sheriff attend county board of commissioner meetings? Is he required?
That's a good question.
you know, that probably, I'm sure he does that from time to time.
I don't know, I don't remember seeing them at the ones that were televised when I still had Comcast.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, we're looking more for, you know, get some
Well,
information from
but you
you
can
and
contact,
support.
you know, you have a county commissioner also,
Okay.
Mr. Rushing.
Dave Rushing.
You can certainly contact him. And, because he has a lot more clout with the county than we do.
Yeah,
And,
Dave Rushing,
Dave Rushing.
just like his son.
Yeah, and about the Sucker Fest issue, you're getting good coverage right there, you know, getting the voice out.
But in any event, even if it was small and you
Yeah.
had no
So this
police,
is the channel.
one person can cause a lot of havoc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it,
Yes.
right, and ruin it for everyone.
I would also mention about the Sucker Fest today.
Oh, well.
Had I not seen him in the corner of my eye, I would have been run over by that
Yeah.
coming across.
She's gonna run, dodge, and jump.
Nobody
We're
should
gonna have
to
her
be.
toughened up, huh?
Yeah, nobody
But-
should have to.
No.
She
You
didn't
can-
have to, we were
You
trying.
can complain about what the police, how they acted, but the fact that they had 6 sheriffs there for that event is very good amount. You're lucky you have that many police there.
Yeah,
But you
they
can
were-
say you don't like how they reacted, but
Right.
that's a very good turnout from the
Now
sheriff's
we have
department.
No
for that event.
trespassing signs ready for next year's
About
Suckerfest.
3
Right?
years ago, I lived right in St. Clair
I
Highway.
just put up in.
About 3 years ago, before the sheriff's crackdown, the Sunday of the Suckerfest, I was going to
So
look at the
that's why
paper.
when you're readjusting the snow.
Here comes a pickup truck hauling a hay wagon, towing a hay, and there's 2 picnic tables with people sitting on there drinking beer going down St. Clair Highway. Yeah.
That's not-
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate
Well,
you listening.
thanks for coming.
And for,
But I will get a hold of a couple of folks from the Suckerfest committee and see what's cooking for next year.
Right.
And if they have the police still attend those at all.
Yeah.
And if not, then I'll tell them about your concerns and see what they say.
I've already got a draft started to the sheriff himself to find out why it is that this police officer who told me that they poured out their beer did not arrest him for driving while under the influence. And just send him along this piece of
Open,
paper
what
and
do
show
you
him.
call open?
Open. They were open, all right.
Yeah, driving.
They're sloshed all
It
over.
doesn't matter.
And
Doesn't matter.
did he get a ticket? Did
No.
he get any
No
sort of
ticket,
ticket?
no citation
I
whatsoever.
mean, they
If
hand
you're
out
drunk,
tickets for
they
open
can get
beer
you
cans
if
on
you're
college
behind the wheel.
campuses like candy
Yeah.
corn, you know?
Well,
He was at his house.
I can see we've
Thank
got,
you.
we've been excited to hear
Yes.
that.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry you had all the problems.
We are too. We're happy to have the people have fun, but we don't like to have
They
them
got
tear up
him
our
over
place.
there.
You know, I was down to Suckerfest later on Sunday, and right there, like, at the bar and next at the garage, they did a good job of controlling it right on their property. Now, there was a lot of other activities on other properties that I don't think is regulated.
Sanctioned.
Right. So,
But they still
Nobody
should.
hauling 7 people
yeah,
around drinking beer.
and that's
is
outrageous that someone blatantly trespassing, creating a dangerous situation.
And realistically, if you have thousands of people there, 6 police officers on bicycles.
Well, the
Really
guy admitted
not
he couldn't,
enough to
there's
take
no way
care
he
of
could have
that.
contained anything. He says if we'd have riled them up, we'd have been outnumbered. And that was his words to me. He
There's
says,
only
we don't want to
6
rile them up. I thought, oh,
Oh,
it's okay if they rile us up.
Weren't you taught how to contain them?
no.
Yeah.
No, I thought their pistols were pretty impressive. I mean,
Yeah.
Vehicles.
that's amazing.
Because they can get in and out because of all the
Yeah, I
other
mean,
stuff.
it makes sense.
They can get for altercations.
Right.
But 6 didn't really seem like enough for the crowd that's
Yeah, we have to
there.
get the crowd.
Okay.
Everybody
Thank
says
you for
same.
coming through.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Continue to be vocal.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll try to be more pleasant.
Well, you weren't bad, you weren't that bad.
Respectful about it.
No, you
Just
just
too much.
got a little bit of a, like all of us do,
Well,
when we get upset.
we like to
Frustration.
have a nice place and.
I don't blame you,
Yeah.
I do too.
All right.
Okay, any other citizen comments? Where's our NEMC report? Mr. NEMC member?
Not much of a report.
Been there, saw it, and looked on.
That was it, yes.
And
No
they
report.
got you on camera there.
Lucky Joe.
Yeah, blackmail.
Okay. Nothing else from anyone?
No, I mean,
Motion to adjourn.
go for it.
I'll support that.
Moved and supported to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned.
Thank you.
So you're-
8:11.